Get your coaching bingo cards ready for this one, friends. What's up? Welcome back to my channel. Hi if you're new here, hi if you're not. As you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, we have another interview coming today. This interview covers everything that I talk about on this channel, from misleading marketing to manipulative sales tactics to gaslighting, blaming, shaming, even under or unqualified people doing and teaching things that they have no business to be doing or teaching, in my opinion, of course. I'm gonna leave the conversation to today's guests. I will say, full disclaimer, I wasn't able to put captions on this one, but I used a less aggressive voice distorter, so hopefully it's not too bad. If anyone knows of a tool that can put captions on videos, specifically when the video file is like 10 gigs large, please let me know in the comments. Shout out to my channel VIP members. Thank you so much for your support, as well as the beloved billionaire tier Reaction Therapy, Suzanne and Harrison. I appreciate you all so, so much. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in.
Back in 2020, like the summer, I think it was around August, September, I signed up with a business coach that she had a program for fitness coaches. So essentially, you're a fitness coach and you build a program and you make, she quoted 10 grand a month. And she's like, oh yeah, not everybody makes that, but she's like, everybody makes back their investment. And I remember being on a sales call with her, and she was very bubbly and very exciting to talk to, very personable. And the program was 12 weeks. She had this whole backstory of, rags to riches of, I was 25K in debt, and then I bought a business mentor, and then she only had her fitness business for like a year. And then she decided to become a business coach, and she built a program, and it was $8,000 for 12 weeks. But she had a whole on the phone offer of, oh, well, if you buy it right now, I'll give it to you for 6,000.
And sorry, was this a group program or a one-on-one?
It was group, and there was no one-on-one time with her at all. So she just had her support coaches and like 3 calls a week, and it was just a bunch of modules. In her sales call to me, she was like, oh, 75% of women make their investment back within 30 days. And so I'm like, okay. And I was already really skeptical because I was just skeptical of the process to begin with. But she was very convincing and had so much screenshots of success and stuff like that. And 100%, this was my choice. I was very, very nervous, but I decided to go ahead and do it anyways. And so I paid in full on a credit card. And right away, I felt like immense regret. I was like, there's just something not right here. And then she sent over her contract. And in the contract, there's a whole, you sign the contract. In the fine print, I read it. It said, you're not allowed to post bad reviews of me online. You're not just allowed to say anything negative about me online. And she sent that to me after I paid. And I was like, okay, maybe I should just ask for my money back. This doesn't sound good. Because I'm like, this is why I can't find bad reviews of you, is because this is essentially like an NDA.
Which is wild because you're paying them. So it's like you pay me to not be able to talk about me. Like when you leave a job, for example, sometimes you have to sign an NDA. You can't talk about your experience. But that job was paying you money.
Yeah. Right.
So to have it in the opposite to me is so, I'm not surprised, but it's still just mind blowing.
And it'd be one thing if it was an NDA for you can't share my content. You can't pretend like this is yours and go share my course for free.
Yeah.
Be one thing, but it was more you can't post anything bad about me. I was like, well, I already paid. I'll just sign. I have to do this because I was working 3 jobs and I was miserable and I really wanted to make the 10K months, of course.
You had a fitness business at this time.
Yeah. Well, that was me starting. I already had my CPT through NASM. I was already doing some part-time coaching, and I had my nutrition certification through ISSA. So I felt very confident in what I had to offer. And right away, going into her whole modules, they were a lot of red flags. It was all about money mindset, all about manifestation, all about, you just have to be one step ahead of your clients. There was not once anything in the entire 12-week program on how to become a good coach, on how to take care of your clients properly, on how to teach them properly. It was all about money. Money. That's all it was about. And she taught you how to create a program through Trainerize, and it was all a copy and paste program. So everyone essentially would get the same thing. Half the women in this program weren't even certified in anything, in my opinion. You can't just wake up and be like, I'm a health coach. This is people's, health we're talking about. You can't just mess around with it and go on charging people ridiculous amounts of money. She said that we needed to be at least charging $1,500 for 90 days for these people. And the entire time she taught us, you get someone on the sales call, you take them through like a 30-minute spiel, you don't reveal your pricing until the end, and you do whatever it takes to get them to say yes. She even encouraged us, like, the stuff that she was saying was like, once she started to teach us the stuff that she was saying, I realized it's the stuff she used on me to get me to say yes to her program. And I just felt so icky because I remember one thing that connected me to her is she was like, "Oh my gosh, you remind me of my friend." And she was like, "You just really remind me of this person." And I was like, "Oh, that's sweet." Like, I remind her of somebody. But then in the program, she's like, "Oh yeah, tell clients, like, make up a story, say that they remind you of somebody to get them to connect with you."
That is so manipulative. I'm just curious if you were taught the like common framework we see where like you fill out or you get your client, sorry, to fill out like a Google form or a Jot form answering all these questions so that when you get on the sales call, you're able to like utilize those questions to manipulate them basically.
Yeah, they had us do that. Yeah, like a questionnaire. And they had us do, they had like a sales script for us, which they're like, "Oh yeah, don't follow it 100%. This is just a guide." And the entire time I was not seeing results. I wasn't booking calls. I wasn't getting any leads. I was getting a bunch of unfollows. I was not getting any results whatsoever. And they just kept blaming it on me. They're like, "No, this is your fault. You're not thinking positively. You're talking negatively. This is why you're not getting clients, is because you're not manifesting. And, if you say it's not working, that means it won't work." And I just remember thinking, like, yes, of course it's important to be positive, but in my opinion, like, strategy is more important. Like, if I'm running a race and I'm going the opposite direction of the finish line, it doesn't matter how positive I am. I'm never going to finish.
And I think that's one of the big flaws with the industry is like a way for these coaches to avoid taking accountability for the fact that their clients aren't getting results is putting the onus on, oh, well, it's your attitude. If you don't believe you're worthy of success, you're never going to be successful. But it's like, if I don't have the tools to be able to succeed in the first place, like you said, it doesn't matter how many good thoughts I have about how great of a coach I am. If I don't know what I need to do to find leads, close those leads, get more clients, I'm never going to be able to accomplish any of that.
And they just kept telling me, because I kept saying, "Okay, like, what if this doesn't work? Like, I want to be prepared for a plan B. Like, I want to be prepared if this strategy doesn't work, what do we do?" And they're like, "No, you can't think that way. You can't have a plan B because that means plan A won't work." They're like, "You're already setting yourself up for failure by thinking it won't work." I'm like, "Well, I'm not thinking it won't work. I'm just trying to be prepared on how to shift if this isn't working properly." Because I kept telling them I'm not getting any results. This is not happening. And they're like, "Okay, try this. Try copy and pasting Hey Girl messages and send it to 100 women a day." And I was like, "I just don't like that." They're like, "No, no, no, that works for me. That works for me. That works for me." And I'm like, "Okay." And of course I tried it, and of course it didn't work because it's obnoxious. I remember one coach, she taught us, "You need to be on your phone 24/7." And she even verbatim said, "Even when you sit down to pee, be on your phone looking for leads." And I was just remember thinking in my head, I just paid $5,500 to have someone tell me to sit on the toilet and pee and look for people.
So absurd. And I think that it's like when these people are giving this advice, a lot of the times it's coming from like a genuine place where they think that that's helpful. And I'm like, in what world is teaching me to be addicted to my phone going to help me in any way?
They just kept promoting, I work 5 hours a week, and I make this much money. And all the time, all I saw her, the lead coach, the creator of the program, focus on was money. It was all money, money, money. It was all, "Oh, I can manifest 100K months. I can manifest this. I can manifest this." Not once did I see her post about how many women can I help. It was all about her.
What is the outcome for my
Yeah.
clients? That's the question I always ask. It's like, okay, it's great that you're making all this revenue, but what results are your clients actually getting? Not saying they also need to be making a ton of money, but if you're promising them a fitness transformation, for example, where are the results? Curious,
Yeah.
asking for a friend.
And there absolutely needs to be feedback on both, accountability on both ends, which they didn't teach us. Because as a fitness coach, I know that not everyone's body is the same. If I give you a program, it might work for you, but it may not work for the girl next door. And they acted like, "Oh yeah, if your client's not getting results, it's their fault, not yours." I'm like, that's not necessarily true. There could be something wrong. What if they have a hormonal problem? What if they have like an autoimmune disease that we don't know about? What if there's so many things that could be preventing someone from getting results? Not just because, "Oh, they didn't follow my program." Like, it's such a narcissistic way of thinking of, "Oh, my program's so perfect that if you fail it, it's your fault."
For sure. And I'm curious, I guess, about the logistics of the actual program that you joined. So you had mentioned a couple times that you were in contact with this coach's like sub coaches. Were those people that had been, a lot of the times I know these coaches will like recruit past clients to then come and work for them. So now their job is to do the actual coaching on behalf of this other coach. Is that the idea?
Correct. Yeah.
And so then the coach who recruited you into the program, you had minimal contact with her then, I'm assuming?
Correct. Yep. Minimal. Remember when she sold the program to me, she's like, oh yeah, we're all one big family. If you ever need something, like if you need me personally, you can direct message me. She's like, I'm in Slack every day and I see all the messages, but I just don't respond. I'm like, you don't respond to your $8,000 paying clients.
How many people were in the program? Like, was she at the point where she couldn't handle that, or she was just being a dick?
I think she said yes to everybody, even though she said that she didn't say yes to everybody. I think there was at least 20 other women in the program when I was there.
Is it like a rolling enrollment, or was it set start dates, set finish dates?
No, she was always bringing in new people. And she taught us to act like we have one spot left in our program, post, oh, I have one spot left. I'm like, people know that's a lie. And basically, yeah, so I didn't get any results. I didn't get a sales call. I didn't get anything. At the end of the program, you graduate and you get off of like an unenrollment call with them, like an exit call. And there was no apology from them, from her or her support coach. There was no anything. It was just like, we don't know how else to help you. We've never had someone fail before. We've never dealt with something like this. Your attitude just really needs to change. Oh, and she didn't like the way that I did fitness because she said that most people don't like your approach because your approach was too strict. So that's probably why you're also not getting clients. There was not one apology. There was not one, there wasn't even, I'm sorry that this happened. I'm sorry we weren't a good fit. It was all, it's your fault. And the entire time, I really did think it was my fault. I took 100% accountability. I was like, yeah, you're right. This is my fault. I had a bad attitude. I was really nervous. And I just remember just being just destroyed, just leaving and not knowing what to do and just feeling so embarrassed. And I didn't even ask for my money back because I knew I wasn't going to get it back. But that's how the program ended. And then all of her and her coaches unfollowed me and never talked to me again.
That is so awful. I'm so sorry you had that experience. And that, again, like we've mentioned, there's no accountability in this space. And I think when you're sort of going through it directly, it's easy from the outside to be critical and be like, well, why didn't you just, dispute it with your credit card? But when you're in that position of going through this experience, not getting the results you were promised, I think it's really hard to recognize that it's not your fault, especially when you're being gaslit into thinking like, well, you had a bad attitude. You didn't do module ABC. You didn't try this method that we taught you. It's like, okay, yeah, that is on me. Like you convince yourself enough to think like, yeah, it's totally my fault. I remember like it took me probably 4 or 5 years before I recognized, wait, the fact that this woman promised me XYZ, I paid her my money and I didn't get what she had promised, that's not my fault. That's her fault.
Yeah, I followed everything. I went to all the calls. And what really got me thinking was afterwards, I feel like once you sign up with one business coach, all of a sudden you're flooded with other business coaches trying to recruit you. I got invited to a Facebook group. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's called Fit Pro Mentorship Review. It's actually a really great tool. A guy created a Facebook group for people kind of like this that have been scammed by business coaches. And he has been in the fitness industry for like 20 years. And he was scammed himself. His wife was scammed. So he kind of created an entire group for private reviews, for anonymous reviews, and for good reviews. So he helps you get set up with positive mentors that can help you and provides a lot of free content, but also it's a space to share reviews on other coaches. And I came to him, I'm like, yeah, like this is what happened with me and this coach. She told me I was the only one that failed. And he's like, nope, that's not true. He's like, I've heard negative reviews about her plenty of times before.
The gaslighting. See, that's what I'm talking about is like, they know that what they're doing. And I think like the NDA portion that we talked about earlier is a huge indicator of that. But if you know that what you're doing isn't guaranteed to get results, but you're selling it as if it is, it's like, obviously something is off here. So then I'm going to be on the defensive because I know that what I'm teaching probably isn't going to work anyway. So when you don't get results, I'm not taking accountability. I'm passing that back off to you.
Yeah. And, maybe I did have a bad attitude because a lot of the stuff I was learning was very shady. It was very not okay. I was not okay with, you don't just get to like start a fitness business and charge the most possible as a beginner. Like that's not ethical in my opinion. And that's not right. I don't have any reason to back that up. I haven't had loads of success to back up that pricing. And I don't find it ethical at all to get someone on a 30-minute sales call entrap them into a price and try and convince them that, oh, well, I guess you just don't want this that bad. And to convince them that the only way to get success is to pay $1,500, which I know myself is a lie because I got success with fitness without paying that much.
It's the same thing we see in like this kind of fitness business coaching, regular business coaching. Pricing is based on your individual desire to make money versus the actual outcomes that you get for your clients versus the actual overhead costs you experience to run your business. The normal things that actual businesses would use to calculate pricing are kind of thrown to the wayside. And it's mostly just, how much money do I want to make? How many people do I need to dupe into paying me X amount of dollars to reach that target?
Yeah, and it's really funny looking back because she told me I was operating off of a scarcity mindset. But in my opinion, she was. Because a scarcity mindset is people who use NDAs, is people who use that type of manipulative phone call to get you to sign up so that they can collect as much money as possible and to do a no money back program. Like if you really were that confident in yourself and had a positive money mindset, you wouldn't implement any of those things.
Exactly. So I'd be curious to hear, I guess, what your unraveling of all of this was. So you had mentioned that when you first left the program, you did take accountability and said like, oh, it's all my fault. I'm the reason I'm in this situation. What has that process been like since then? Because obviously now we wouldn't be talking if you didn't feel like
so something had happened. I joined the group and then I found out that she had scammed other people. I also talked to another girl that was in the program as well. And she's like, oh no, I didn't get results either. Part of it was also even just doing like some free trainings from other business coaches that were far more valuable than her paid information. I was like, wow, I got this for free and I didn't even get this for paying to be in hers. And really also my husband is a business owner and he kept telling me, he's like, this stuff is not okay that she's teaching you. He kept telling me this is a fraudulent program. Like he was really supportive that I wanted to do it, but also very much like when I was telling him the stuff I was learning, he was like, no.
We don't do that here.
So yeah, it was kind of just little signs. And then, learning, I think the other women didn't get results either. Because I kept saying, I'm not getting results. Like, I'm not getting results. And I'm struggling. And so each week I would put in Slack, I was like, this is going to be my week. I'm going to book up a sales call. And they put me in like my own little private Slack chat with the 3 coaches. Like, if you need us, just message us in this one. I think that was their way of basically trying to like get the negativity out of there, which it wasn't negative. It was just honest. It was honesty. I'm not getting results.
I'm just sharing my experience and I'm being like quieted, told not to share that publicly.
Yeah. And one of the coaches at the end, when I told her, I'm like, I did not get any results and I'm extremely disappointed. She was like, well, you should be thankful for what you've learned and for your experience. Like, I did not pay that much freaking money for an experience.
And I think that connects back to the whole like gaslighting thing is like, we do it to ourselves. These coaches will do it to their clients. It happens when you're in a group of other people who also didn't get results. Sometimes it can happen. I know I had that experience initially as well, where it's like, okay, like I didn't get a monetary return, but at least I, feel better about myself or I have more confidence in my offer. And it's like, okay, but that's not helpful. I can't pay my bills because I feel good about myself.
No. And that was her entire attitude was, if you feel good, the money will come. I'm like, no, that's not how things work. Money just doesn't go poof.
Or the whole, if you spend the money, then the universe will like reciprocate it. I'm like, that is the most backwards thing. Why are people in debt then, if that's the case?
Yeah, and I kept telling her, I'm like, I don't think, because on our last departing call, I was like, I think that we're just not in alignment. Like, I just, I kind of told her, I'm like, I respect your views on manifestation, but I don't agree with it. And she got in my face and she was like, no, it's science. This is proven.
For the record, anyone listening to this episode, I have a video on why this is in fact not science, which I will link in the description down below.
And like, yeah, parts are true. Like, you don't want to be around somebody who's mean and negative. That's just kind of natural feelings with people. But thinking things in your head is not going to give you like money.
Exactly. And I think there's also merit in, I know a lot of them talk about like sit in rooms with millionaires and whatever. And like the way they talk about it, I don't necessarily agree with, but I do think there is value in, finding successful people who have done the things you want to do to prove that it's possible to yourself and to learn maybe the steps that they took to get there when we're talking about like people who aren't scammers. There's value in that. But to think like, oh, just because I have a friend who's a millionaire, now I'm going to be a millionaire too. Like wealth doesn't come through osmosis and it doesn't come through thinking positive thoughts. And that's like the important distinction I think that these people don't make.
Yeah. So it was just looking back, it was, it was 100% my choice to invest with her. I should have listened to my gut, but at the same time, I really wish that I would have stood up to her more. And I think that eventually she's going to learn her lesson and that she's going to get something negative out of this because she can't just keep doing this forever. And I don't know if that's common with coaches to make you sign an NDA like that, essentially an NDA.
I actually haven't had anyone mention that, and I've never seen that in my experience, but I would be curious for anyone that's watching this that's worked with one of the like coaches higher up on the pyramid, whether or not that's been the case, because I wouldn't be surprised, but I haven't heard that. You're the first person that's shared that on this channel.
Yeah. And like I said, it'd be one thing if it was just like, oh, you cannot share my course. That's fine. But to say you can't post negative reviews about me, like, no.
Exactly. Especially because, like, obviously in the day and age we live in, I always encourage people, like, go to Reddit, type in the person's, or go to Google, type in the person's name and then Reddit and see what comes up, because you would be shocked at the number of negative reviews that exist anonymously for most of these like larger coaches. And so to try and like prevent that preemptively, to me, is very, very suspicious.
Yeah, I think she maybe deep down she has good intentions, but I think money is more important to her. And I think she sees people as a transaction and not as a transformation. And I just remember thinking, like, no, I paid $150 a month to get the results I got, and I got phenomenal results. I didn't pay this obscene price that you're asking me to charge people.
And it's the same again in the business coaching space. It's like, we don't actually care what your business is, just follow this formula and it'll work for every business. When it's like, the reality is that's not true. Like, whether it's fitness, whether it's business, every person is unique. Every business entity is unique. The markets are different. People's habits are different. Like, there's so much that goes into it. And for them to like oversimplify this idea that you can just follow my magic formula and it's going to work, like, that's the piece that's so frustrating to me.
Yeah, and I already had a little bit of a hesitation with online fitness because, I think that, things like form is so important and stuff like that. And I remember kind of concerning that to her when I was signing up for the program. I was like, I'm a little bit skeptical for online fitness because I am concerned about not being able to see people's form, concerned about this. And she's like, oh, well, that is important, but it's not as important as accountability.
Pay me $1,500 a month to be your personal cheerleader.
I don't think that's true at all. I think keeping people safe with good form is more important than accountability.
Because you can't,
100%.
You need to learn how to be accountable for yourself. You shouldn't have to pay forever for a coach to keep you accountable each month.
And I think that's the piece that's missing too in a lot of these programs, is the understanding that, like, as any kind of service provider, shouldn't our intention be to give our clients the ability to build and foster the skills they need to then be successful on their own, versus this model where it's like, no, you need accountability and you have to pay me if you want to be successful, because if you don't, you're going to fail, blah, 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 blah. And so we see like this need for perpetual mentorship when it's like, if I'm really good at what I do and I actually help my clients, shouldn't the goal be that they don't need me at some point? Like, why are we fostering this sense of codependency?
Yeah, right. Because I know you mentioned you owned a yoga studio. I'm sure you would have been happy to see a client do yoga outside of your studio and know what they're doing.
Exactly. Or if they're coming to me for, like, I had one client who had really bad sciatica. And so we would do yoga, and we started, 3 days a week. Then we tapered down. She only needed it twice a week. She only needed it once a week. Like, that's the kind of progress you want to see, not I'm going to mess you up so bad you got to keep coming back to me for more. Like, that's so twisted to have that mindset.
I think that, I do think there are maybe some good business coaches out there, but I think they're few and far between. And I think that most of them are just people that have done fitness or whatever for like a year and now promote themselves to business coach. And I can't align with that. And I don't align with the fact that this was all my fault anymore.
I'm so glad to hear at least that you've come to terms with the fact of like recognizing that perhaps it wasn't just, your bad attitude and the fact you didn't implement all of these great strategies you were taught, because again, like, the gaslighting is very real, and it's so easy to convince ourselves like, this is a me problem, this is my fault, and not allow ourselves to like point the blame at someone else because it's negative or we're just being a hater. So what has your experience been like post this? So you go through this program, you don't have results. Are you still a fitness coach? Did you figure it out on your own? What was that kind of like?
I do have my certification still. I did coach at an F45 for a little while, which I enjoyed. I did do some part-time coaching. My husband used to own a gym, so I have done it. I've never really had any success in the online industry. After I finished her program, I kind of stopped trying. I've kind of dabbled in with trying here and there. Right as I was finishing her program, I found out I was pregnant, so my focus is now, like, been on my daughter. I've had other jobs in the meantime that I've really liked, but I am going to be starting at a gym here part-time in like February to do some nutrition coaching in person, which I appreciate and I'm excited for. So I do still love fitness and nutrition, and I do hope to maybe eventually take it online, but I have not yet found a way to not be on my phone 24/7 while doing it. And I don't want to be taking away time that I have right now with my daughter while she's so young. She's my priority right now, and I want to make sure to be present with her and not just be like all day, you know?
For sure. And I think that's another piece that's kind of like very misleading in the industry as a whole. The thing you had mentioned earlier about, work 5 hours a day or 5 hours a week and make all this money. It's like, I actually would love to see your screen time. If you're claiming you only work 5 hours a day, you being on social media, Instagram stories 500 times a day, to me is still working. So
I mean, the greatest of the great people, if you want to get that great, are going to have to be on there all day, or they're going to have to do something all day, right? You don't just like get to be the best of the best just by working an hour a day.
Or you end up in the situation where you hire these people who work for you, but they're half-assing whatever they're doing, right? So
I don't know. I don't know if I'll take it online, but we'll see. I'm open to it. I would very likely never invest with another coach again. I might do, like, I've seen things out there that are like subscriptions per month that are very low cost, like $100 a month, that I would definitely like utilize, that I think that I've heard good reviews on, that actually have a lot of valuable content for low cost. So I may do that, but we'll see.
I think that's a good point too, that doesn't get spoken about enough either, is like I've also joined, $49 a month, $99 a month memberships since my like bad coaching experience that did prove valuable. Like I specifically remember joining a marketing membership mid-pandemic, and it was $99 US a month, and I made like over $1,000 return off one single piece of advice I got from the coaches in that program. That to me, it was like, okay, that 1 month that I paid for this membership yielded a 10x return. So that's worth it in my opinion. And something that's sort of low cost, if I spend the $100 and don't get my return, isn't as big of a deal as spending $8,000, $6,000, $5,000, right? So I think it's totally okay to kind of experiment with some of those lower cost options, provided that you read reviews. Again, search the name of the membership and Reddit and see if anyone has any honest experience, or like that Facebook group you mentioned. I can link it in the description of this episode as well. There's definitely options out there for people who are looking for support in building their business. You just really have to do your due diligence, I think, when it comes to handing over your money to anyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and share your story. I do really appreciate it. And I think that the more that we can openly talk about the practices that are being used, it can help people who are maybe kind of on the fence of joining a program to really see those red flags before they commit. I don't know how that was for you, but for me, this conversation was really just a vivid example of the types of tactics and stories that I talk about repeatedly on this channel. Honestly, it was like a little bit validating in a sense, because sometimes I worry that the things I say are just things that I made up in my head. And so despite the fact that this individual obviously had to go through this situation where she spent $8,000 and got no return on her investment, I think it's helpful for me and for people watching this content to be able to find solace in the fact that they're not alone in those experiences. So a big shout out to this individual for being willing to come on and to share her story. If you're watching this video and you have your own experience in the coaching world that you'd like to share, the form to submit interest to come on my channel for an interview is linked down below. As always, I look forward to reading your feedback, hearing your thoughts. Thank you so much for being here. Take care, comb your hair, and I'm gonna leave you on screen here with a different fitness coach who also got scammed by a fitness business coach. Seems to be a trend here. All right, see you in the next one. Bye.